Let's get the webinar started. To kick off the webinar, Mr. Yukti K. Gunasekara, Chairman of Project Transform, will talk briefly about the importance of teaching what is relevant to students. Over to you, Mr. Gunasekara.
Thank you. Thank you, Ilam. Good morning, principals. It's good to have all of you on board today. I'm actually, first and foremost, I'm very grateful to all of you for joining today's webinar. I take it as a vote of confidence, not only in Project Transform, but also that you are keenly interested in delivering more value to your students and also be education leaders in education for not only for your school but in Sri Lanka, but for the entire country as a whole. So, having said that, today's topic, which is uh, by Mrs. Nirmali Singha, on the topic of what she thinks is relevant to teaching, learning, making relevant to students and the world at large, is something which is important. And I want to pick this word, relevant, because there's a lot of conversations happening today, which basically says that education today is not relevant to students, neither is it relevant to the world that they will be working in. Not so in the very recently, the former principal of Royal College Colombo also mentioned that our education system is of the last century, and we are living in the 21st century, whereas our education system is catering to the 20th century and maybe the 19th century. So there's a dire need for us to modernize our education system, and that's where Project Transform comes in. And this is where principals like you, who are leaders in education, can lead the way, not only in covering the syllabus that is given to all of us, but also, more importantly, to do co-curricular things, extracurricular activities, which are more relevant to students and the modern workplace and the country and the world that we live in. So it is in this respect that today's webinar is critically important, because Mrs. Vikramasinghe is going to focus on learning, and this is something important. I don't want to deliver her lecture for you. She's the expert on the subject. However, I want to thank you again, once again, for joining this very important webinar that will help all of us as leaders in education to deliver more value and relevant value to our students. Over to you. Thank you very much. Over to you, Ilam.
Thank you, Mr. Gunasekara. Next, I call upon Rutractor Diniti Tilagaratna to introduce our guest speaker this morning. Over to you, Rutractor Diniti.
Thank you, Lam. Good morning, principals. It's an honor to welcome Mrs. Nirmali Vikramasinghe to our webinar today. Mrs. Vikramasinghe is a distinguished educator with an impressive 50-year career spanning both Sri Lankan and international schools. She has served as a teacher at government schools and was the deputy principal of Bishop's College and the principal of Ladies College, where she pioneered innovative learning approaches and championed the holistic development of students. Currently, as a consultant to the Gateway Group of Schools, she plays a pivotal role in policy formulation, curriculum development, teacher training, and introducing global test practices to educate in Sri Lanka. Mrs. Vikramasinghe received her primary and secondary education at Ladies College Colombo, 7, and holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Bioscience from University of Kelaniya. Ilam, over to you.
Now, I call upon our guest speaker, Mrs. Nirmali Vikramasinghe, to make a presentation.
Good morning, everybody. Happy to be with you today. I would just like to first analyze this word education. And I'm going to begin with what I consider ideally how you should begin any lesson with an engagement. I'm going to get Yukti to play a little clip. It's in Sinhala. And then Yukti, I would like you to translate it before I get on to the next part of my session.
Sure, Mr. Vikram.
ළමෙක් ඇඳලා තාත්තට ගෙනියලා පෙන්නපු චිත්‍රයක්. තාත්තා එච්චර පොහොසත් කෙනෙක් නෙවෙයි දුප්පත් මිනිස්සෙක්. මේ දරුවාගේ වයස අවුරුදු 5ක් විතර. එතකොට මේ වගේ චිත්‍රයක් තමයි ඇඳේ. මේක ඇඳලා පොඩි එකා ගෙනියලා තාත්තට පෙන්නුවහම තාත්තට ආව ප්‍රශ්නයක් මේක මොකද්ද මේ ඇඳේ කියලා. එපාර ඇහුවහම මොකද්ද ඇඳේ පුතේ කියලා. මම අනාගතේ හදන ගෙදර තමයි මේ ඇඳලා තියෙන්නේ. ඉස්සරහට තාත්තේ මම හදන්නේ මේ වගේ ගෙදරක්. තාත්තට හරි සතුටුයි දැන් තාත්තා ගෙදර විස්තර අහනවා. හරිද? මේ මොනවද කියලා ඇහුවාම පුංචි දරුවා කියනවා ඒ තමයි මගේ ගෙදර තට්ටු. 1 2 3 4යි. මං හදන්නේ තට්ටු 4ක ගෙදරක්. මේ අවුරුදු 5 පොඩි එකා කියන්නේ ආ. ඒ මේ මොනවද කියලා ඇහුවාම එක කාර් එකක් තාත්තට නෙක් කාර් එක මට. ඒතර මේ පුතා තාත්තට අරන් දෙන කාර්. එකක් මගේ එකක් තාත්තගේ. මේ කවුද කියලා ඇහුවාම ඒ ඉන්නේ අම්මයි තාත්තයි. මොකද මං ගේ හදන කාලේ වෙනකොට ඔයාලා වයසයි. ඒක නිසා ඕගොල්ලන්ට මම දෙන්නේ 15 තට්ටුවක්. උඩ නගින අමාරුයි. ඒ පාර ඇහුවාම තාත්තා මේ කවුද මේ කවුද? ඒ ඉන්නේ මමයි නෝන. හරිද? මේ කොල්ලා කියනවා මමයි නෝනයි තමයි ඉන්නේ. දැන් මම අවුරුදු කීයද? අවුරුදු 5 දී උගේ සංකල්ප. ඇහෙලා දිනුනේ. හරි. ඊළඟට ඇහුවාම මොනවද පුතේ කියලා මේකා කියනවා ඒක තමයි ස්විමින් pool එක. දැන් මේ පොඩි එකාගේ සිහිනේනේ. තාත්තා දුප්පත් මිනිස්සයා වුණාට බුද්ධිමත්. තාත්තා කිව්වා බොහොම හොඳයි පුතේ මම ඔයාට උදව් කරන්නම් ඔහොම ගයක් හදාගන්න. ඔයා හොඳට ඉගෙන ගන්න මාත් ඉන්නවනේ මාත් උදව් කරන්න. කොල්ලා සතුටෙන් හැමදාම මේ ගේ දැන් අලුතෙන් චිත්‍රය ඩෙවලොප් කරා. පොඩ අලුත් දේවල් එකතු කර කර හැමදාම වගේ තාත්තට ගෙනියලා පෙන්නලා මෙහෙම හොඳද කියලා අහනකොට ඉතින් තාත්තත් හරි එහෙම කරන්න මෙහෙම කරන්න කී තාත්තත් එක දේවල් මේකට එකතු කරලා කොල්ලගේ මොකද්ද ගොඩ නැගුවේ. තිහිනයක් හැදුවා. හරි. කොහොම ඉඳලා ටික දවසකින් ගියා ඉස්කෝලේ. එකේ පන්තියට. ගිහිල්ලා ටික දවසකට පස්සේ මේක චිත්‍රයක් අඳිනවා ආපහු ගෙදර ඇවිල්ලා. මේ සුඩ තියාගෙන චිත්‍රපොත. ඒකේ තියෙන චිත්‍රය මීට වඩා හැබැයි ලස්සනයි. හොඳයි. මෙන්න මෙහෙම චිත්‍රයක් තමයි ඒකේ තියෙන්නේ. මෙහෙම එකක් ලස්සනට ඇඳලා කරත්තයක් එහෙම නවත්තලා දැන් මේක ලස්සනට පාඩ කර කර ඉන්නවා පොඩි එකා. ගම්බද පරිසරයක් ලස්සනයි. තාත්තේ පාර ඇවිල්ලා බැලුවාම අර මතක් වුණා තාත්තට අර පරණ චිත්‍රේ මතක් වුණා. මේකේ උඩින් ලියලා තියෙන්නේ මොකක් කියලාද? මගේ නිවස. ඒතර තාත්තා හව කොල්ලගෙන් කවුද පුතේ ওই චිත්‍ර කියලා දුන්නා. ඉස්කෝලේ ටීචර් කියලා දුන්නේ. එතකොට ඇහුවා අර ඔයා ඒ දවස්වල මට ඇඳලා පෙන්නලා කියපු චිත්‍රේ. තාත්තේ මං ඒ චිත්‍රය ඇඳලා ටීචර්ට පෙන්නුවාම ටීචර් කිව්වා ඔයාට ඔච්චර ලොකු ගයක් හදන්න බෑ. මේ જાති එකක් තමයි හදන්නේ. මේකේ කටු මැටි පිටි ගහපු තනි තට්ටුවක් විදියට හදපු අරත්තයක් නවත්තපු ලස්සන නිර්මාණයක්. චිත්‍රය ලස්සනයි. අර ඇඳපු පළවෙනි චිත්‍රයට වඩා හැඩයි. පාට කිරීම හොඳයි. හසුරු කුසලතා හරි. කොල්ලගේ ආකල්ප විනාශ වෙලා කුඩුපට්ටම් කරලා දාලා තියෙන්නේ. කවුද මේ? ඉස්කෝලේ ටීචර්. මූට ඉස්කෝලේ ගියාට පස්සේ වෙච්ච වැඩි. තට්ටු පහේ ගයක් හදන්න හිතන් හිටපු එක දැන් ගහන්නේ මොකද්ද? මේ පියස්සේ වහලක තනි තට්ටුවේ ගියා. කවුද සිහිනේ උඩ ඉඳන් යට ඇත්තේ? ඉස්කෝලේ ටීචර්. ගොඩක් ගුරුවරු ඕක තමයි කරන්නේ. ගුරුවරයා ඉන්න දේ ළමයන්ට කියලා දෙනවා මිසක් ළමයා ඉන්න තැනින් උඩට ගන්නේ නැත. කියන්නේ උඹලා හදන්නත් ඕන අපි ඒ දවස්වල හදපු ගයක්මයි. නේ චිත්‍ර කතාව ඔය විදියට උනාට දැන් බලන්න ළමයේගේ සංකල්ප මෙච්චර ඉහළ මට්ටමේ තියෙන සංකල්පය වැඩි දියුණු කරලා හදලා ඌ ඉහළට ගන්න පුළුවන් එක සමහර ගුරුවරු හැමෝම නෙවෙයි සමහර ගුරුවරු විසින් අර මට්ටමින් දාන්නේ මෙන්න මේ මට්ටමට. එතකොට ගුරුවරයා ළමයා දැන් වෙනස් කරලා තාත්තා මේ චිත්‍රය දැකපු ගමන් හදාගත්ත සීන සියල්ල මොකක් වුණාද? විඳගත්තා. කඩන් වැටුණා. දැන් මේවා අපිට හොඳ පණිවිඩ. නේ ගුරුවරු කරන්න ඕන මොකද්ද? ආපහු මෙතනින් මෙතෙන්ට ඇදලා දාන එක නෙවෙයි. මේක හදන්න ඉන්න කෙනාට අරක හදන්න උදව් කරන එක. මේ උගේ ගාව තියෙන සිහිනයනේ. ඔක හොඳට අඳුරගත්ත රටවල් මොකද්ද කරන්නේ? ජපානය, චීනය. සිහිනකාරය කියලා වැඩසටහනක් තිබ්බද ඉස්කෝලේ? පුංචි කාලේ යනකොට ඉස්කෝලේ යනකොට. හරි. ජපානා, චීනා ඕක දන්න මිනිස්සු. ඒ මිනිස්සු මොකද කරන්නේ? ලෝකෙ පුරාම ඉන්න දරුවන්ට කොළ බෙදලා, පැස්ටල් බෙදලා මොකද අඳින්න කියලා කියන්නේ? ඔයාලා අනාගතයේදී යන්න කැමති කාර් එක ඕකේ ඇඳලා දෙන්න කියලා. ලෝකෙ පුරාම දරුවෝ එකතු වෙලා එයාලා දෙන පැස්ටල් වලින් ලස්සනට කාර් ඇඳලා අර අංකල්ලාට බාර දුන්නාම ඒ අංකල්ලා තෑගිත් දෙනවා පොඩි පොඩි ඒවා. නේ? දීලා ඒ ටික අරන් ගිහින් කාලයක් තිස්සේ හොඳට විශ්ලේෂණය කරලා අවසානයේ තෝරනවා මේ පරම්පරාව එළියට එද්දී මොකද්ද අපේ කම්පැනි දෙන්න ඕන වාහනේ. ඒ පරම්පරාවේ සිහින තමයි Honda සමාගම, Toyota සමාගම ලෝකෙ පුරාම දරුවන්ගෙන් එකතු කරගෙන යන්නේ. ගෙනියලා ඉවර වෙලා ඒ සිහිනයට ගැළපෙන වාහනේ තමයි හදන්නේ. හදලා ඒ වාහනේ එළියට එන්න අවුරුදු 20ක් විතර යයි. ඒ අවුරුදු 20 යනකොට ඒ වාහනේ මිලට ගන්න පරම්පරාව දැන් රැකියාවක් කරන අය. ඒ අයගේ සිහිනයට ගැළපෙන වාහනය වෙළඳ පොලේ දැන් තියෙන එකක්. අපේ මෙට්ටොන්ට ඕක තේරුන්නේ නැති වුණාට ලෝකෙ මිනිස්සු ඒ විදිහට තමයි පොඩි දරුවන්ගෙන් තමයි සංකල්ප ගන්න. අපේ කට්ටිය මොකද කරන්නේ? තියෙන සංකල්ප අඩා බිඳලා දාලා විනාශ කරලා අටුමැටික් ඒ බවට පත් කරනවා. ඔය සිහින ඕගොල්ලන්ගෙත් තියෙනවනේ. ආරෙම්ම යන්න ඕන මේ කතන්දර මාර වැදගත් ඒවා.
Over to you, Yukti, not
Right.
Blooms.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't want this slide now.
Right.
I'll have this slide later. I'll tell you when I need them.
Yeah. Sorry about that. That's a mistake.
Okay. You have to do the translation.
Yes. So the story is basically this. There's a father and a son. The son is 5 years old, and the son basically draws a picture and brings and shows to the father. And the picture, let me share that with you. The picture is this. Ms. Vikramasinha, can you see the picture? Yes?
Yes, I can.
So, yes, this is the picture. So the father asked the son, by the way, the son is 5 years old, 5 years old. Ask the son, what is this picture? Then he says, this is the house that I want to build in the future. And then the father asks, okay, so what is this? So and the son says, this is like a 4-story house that I want to build. And the father asked, what is here? He said, these are 2 cars, 1 car for me and 1 car for you and my mother. Then the father asks, okay, so what is here on the 2nd floor? The son says, oh, that is you and my mother. And then the son says, because at that time you will be old, so you can't be climbing stairs. So that's why you are on the 1st floor. Then the father asks, what is on the 2nd floor? He says, oh, that is my wife and myself. And then the father says, what is here on the 4th floor? Oh, that is the swimming pool. So this child who is 5 years old, this is his dream house of the future. Then he goes to school. And in school, what happens is the teacher asks him to draw his future house. And this is the house. When the child draws this house, the teacher says, sorry, you can't build this house. Build the house that you can build. And then it's a wattle and daub house with it's 1-story house with a bullock cart parked in front of the house. So what the teacher has done is taken this child's dream of a 4-story house and made it into a wattle and daub house. Of course, this house is it's a nice picture, it's nicely painted, and the creativity is all out. But the thing is, what the teacher has done is the teacher has destroyed the dream of the child, of the 5-year-old child. Now, what this person says again next is that although we in Sri Lanka don't understand this, developed countries like Japan and China, what they do is they give coloring sticks, for example, to children all over the world and ask them to make a picture of the vehicle that they want to drive when they are big, when they are adults. And then these companies like Honda and Toyota, they collect all these pictures from the students, from young kids, and then they make a vehicle. Then they study it carefully and make a vehicle that that is ideal for this generation when they come to the workforce in 20 years' time. So that is how developed countries make use of children and their ideas to basically make products and services that are suitable for them in the future. Although developed countries are aware of this, unfortunately, in Sri Lanka, we are not aware of it. Over to you, Mrs. Wickramasinghe.
Okay, so now I'm going to go on to the word education. How did the word education come about? It actually came from two Latin words, educere, which is E-D-U-C-E-R-E, educere, and educare, which is E-D-U-C-A-R-E. Educere means to bring out, to take out. And educare means to nurture and nourish. So our responsibility as educators is to bring out what is in the children. And this is exactly what happened with that engagement. We saw what the child has inside the child, what the child is capable of. A child is only a 5-year-old, but the child was able to think and bring out what the child felt would be an ideal home. But then what happened when he went to school? Mark Twain once said, "My education was taught by my schooling." And is that what we do to our children? Principals, I think it's very, very important that you nurture your teachers into understanding that their responsibility is to bring out, right? You engage them and you bring out. So today, as I'm virtually like a teacher to you principals. So what I am trying to do is, I don't want the blooms just theater, Yukti. I'll tell you when I need the blooms. Okay?
Sorry about that.
So what I want to bring across to you, for you to take home, is that our primary responsibility is to bring out. And I will conduct this session also in a way that you should conduct your lessons. So you begin, all lessons should start with an engagement that excites the students. I hope that engagement excited you, because certainly when I first saw this, it really excited me. And I remember drawing that house. Could you ask them to put their hands up if there's anybody who has not drawn that house in their lifetime?
Yes.
As a child?
Yes. Yes. Principals, if you can please raise your hands, or you can put it in the chat box as well. If you have drawn that house, that one-story house, maybe with or without the cart, but yeah. But how many of you have actually drawn that house? I know I have drawn that house as well when I was a kid. So yeah, so there are two. I will give you 10 seconds.
How many principals do you have with you?
We have about 14, Mr. Wickramasinghe.
So 3 have put their hands up. Okay.
Right.
So very good. If we have 11 who have not drawn that house, that means our education system has changed, because I drew that house. And still, even at 72 years now, I have this tendency to draw that house if I'm doing a little bit of doodling, right? So actually what happened is that whole child's creativity was totally destroyed. Later on, I will go on to the Bloom's taxonomy. But before that, I will also talk a little bit more about the lesson plan. So now I am actually going with my lesson plan today. So I engaged first, and now I'm exploring. That's why I asked how many of you all have drawn that house, how many of you all haven't drawn that house. It's interesting to know if there are people who haven't drawn that house. And actually, what you feel happened to that child also is something I would have liked to have asked you if I was talking to you, right? So as educators, I think we really need to understand that finally what we have to develop is the child's creativity. And whatever we impart to them, we have to make sure that they move up from exploring. They need to explore whatever subject you're doing. You need to get them to explore what they're studying. That's why, I told Yukti, I really don't like to do webinars because I like to see you all and get you all to really explore the topic. So now we saw that house and we realized how that child's creativity was destroyed. Now, as I said, education comes from two words: bring out and nurture and nourish, right? But what happened in the school? We didn't bring out anything, and we just destroyed. We just didn't nurture and nourish. The teacher just put his opinion into the child, and that is what teachers world over. This is not a Sri Lankan thing. Neither is the fact that what Yukti said, the fact that the education systems of the world, I know even the foreign systems, many of them, if you look at the papers that they actually finally give the children, they are not making the children think. You're not going into the higher order thinking at all. You're not going into dynamic thinking, right? You are just reproducing what the teacher has taught, and that is why the tuition industry is just booming, because all they want is children want to be taught and to reproduce. So I think we now need to get on to, if you take an ideal lesson plan, in my opinion, there are lesson plans that I have been subject to in my 50 years as an educator. The Ministry of Education has given us several lesson plans at different intervals. I think you principals must be very, very aware of all of them. But some lesson plan that I really felt was a very good lesson plan was the 5 E's, which I am talking about now, which lesson begins with engagement. Just as I did today, I engaged you into the topic. Then we get on to exploration, because even in the engagement itself, there was a lot of exploration. This person whom we saw in the clip also did quite a lot of exploration. He did talk about how the child's creativity was destroyed. So this whole lesson is about engaging and nurturing teachers to become better teachers. And with that clip, I think that we brought about a lot of facts that we have a tendency to destroy creativity, which is primarily our goal. Creativity is finally our goal. And if we destroy that, we have really lost the whole purpose of our existence. If we destroy a child's creativity, the whole purpose of our existence is lost. And then finally, in the 5 E's, you have engagement, exploration, explanation. So now that's what I'm doing. I'm explaining that clip to you, right? Elaboration, I think I went a little further. And then the clip itself went to elaboration, where they spoke about China and how they got the children to actually draw and how they worked on the child's dreams, because they are the future. We tend to forget that they are the future. They're not going to remain children. They're going to grow up. We adults feel that we can just impose what we feel on them. And when it comes to discipline or anything, we act very, very arrogant as adults. And we can't do that, because these are the future. And these children are not going to remain children. They're going to grow up. And they're going to judge us. They're really going to judge us as teachers when we do that. I feel very sad sometimes when I hear children say, I look back on my teaching career, miss, and there's hardly any teacher that I really love, or really, we do respect in the sense that they've been teachers, but emotionally, I don't have any connection with that person, because I have not felt that person getting the best out of me. And I don't think any one of us wants to be like that. We really need to work towards getting the best out of our children. So then we get on to elaboration. And finally, we get on to evaluation, which is mandatory in this case. Now, evaluation also, we are training children to pass examinations. I'm not saying that that's not important, because finally, I know as principals, I have been one, you have to bring out your results and they judge your success by your results and things like that. I wish they had another form of evaluating you. And I think one of the best ways of evaluating a principal would be to get it from the students. I think the students should be able to evaluate you and tell you how you have been able to change their lives. I think that is very, very important, because finally, that is what matters. I know you now, I'm shocked and sad when I see this dilemma with the Shishatra exams, with the scholarship exams. What is this? Why is it that this country has laid so much emphasis on an exam? When you see those little children dragged to tuition classes, sometimes from 4 in the morning, right? I mean, how many, I think as principals, you have a responsibility towards the parents. I think you need to make the parents aware of where they should pitch with their children, right? Whether this is the be all at 10 years, the children are made to feel that this is the be all and end all of their existence, right? I agree. Successive governments have had to play a big part in this. They have to improve the schools around them. They have to get recognition for those schools around them. Everybody can't go to Royal College, and why should they go to Royal College? I mean, there are so many good schools all around the island, and I think every school should be developed that way. But before that, I think this madness about now, see, I don't know, it's just a standstill now. I really don't know what's going to happen in the future. And look at the lives of those children that are affected. So I think it's very important that you get a balance between the examination and education. Examination is only one part, right? Education, the whole of education is actually bringing out creativity. And our assessments, our evaluation shouldn't just be confined to those question papers. What is very sad is what is being done in the school, in the tuition classes, is just training children for examinations. And then how do you evaluate the success of a school? You are just evaluating the success of the exams. Of course, you have the sports coming in, which I will talk to you later. But even that, I find that many children actually opt not to do the sports or the co-curriculars or the other extracurricular activities simply because it's impeding their tuition classes. Yukti, again, I would like to have a feedback from the principals whether I am talking some nonsense or whether they agree with me. Is there any way that you can get some feedback?
Of course, Ms. Vikramasinghe. Dear principals, if you can use that at this moment, if you can use the chat box to put your comments, if you can please respond to what Mrs. Vikramasinghe has been sharing with us this time, or you can also unmute your mic and ask. And I'm sorry, but at this time I will also call on you if you don't speak up, right? So the principals, right? So I'll give you 10 seconds to respond. If not, Sister Shamali has said, Good Shepherd Balika, I believe it's in Negombo, has said that she is with you, Ms. Vikramasinghe.
Okay.
But I'm not getting any responses from the other principals. So the other principals, if you could please also, I'm going to call on you if you, Madam, Sister Gertrude has also said that she agrees with you, Ms. Vikramasinghe.
Okay.
There are, Ms. Deshani, what do you think? Mr. Ahmed also agrees with you. Mr. Nial Ahmed, that is Sister Gertrude and Sister Shamali are all in agreement with you. As I mentioned earlier in my comments, this is a very progressive set of principals who would like to do more. Also, Mr. Nagatiraja, your response, please. Could we please have your response? Ms. Prathipan also says it's true. Another principal, Mr. Ratnayaka, says it's brilliant. Okay, Ms. Prathipan says she agrees.
So I think
Nagaraj says it's true. So it's a positive response all around.
Yeah, right. So when it comes to the science, I'm a science teacher largely, although I have also done a diploma in English, so I've been teaching English and literature also for a while.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Vikramasinghe, I have to mention another comment from a principal saying, but our zonal and provincial directors force on results basis. So, yeah,
that's what I said. I do understand that you're hampered with the results, but I think you need to work out a balance, if possible, where your results should not be based just on them doing papers. I will get on to the Bloom's taxonomy later on to see that your results, of course, you have to get good results. I'm not saying that you have to forget about your results, but I think the way you get the results should actually, your teachers should be groomed to get the results in a way that it is with the children's creativity also involved in it, and there are multiple intelligences working with it. So I will get on to multiple intelligence a little later. It's very, very important that we work out our lesson plans in a way that the children get the best benefit so that they can pass the exams, but we do not go into a rote system of training them for the exams, which we have a habit of doing, which again is, I totally understand, through sheer fear of the analyzing of the examination results. I'm fully aware of it, right? When it comes to the science, it's very, very worrying that science is taught only from on the board, right? I mean, I know smart boards have come into the schools, but I don't think science should be taught from smart boards only also. I think it's really important, and I'm sure many of you will agree with me, that science, you need to live science, right? And scientific method, which came in the 1970s, when I first started teaching in 1975, the scientific method had come in big time with the NCG and HNC. And that is when I was fully exposed to it, because I passed out of the university in 1975. And I'm so happy that I went straight into the HNC syllabus. And it was a the syllabus was an extremely scientific, had a very good scientific approach. So when it comes to science, there's no way that we should, principals again talk to your science teachers, that we should teach science off the board, which a lot of teachers are doing, right? When we were exposed to that scientific method with our training in 1975, the first thing we were told is what you call the scientific method. It begins with observation. You begin with observation. Then you get on to a problem. Now, for example, you're walking on the road and you see a plant there, right? You have a problem. Why has the plant died? You observe the plant dead, then you have a problem. Why has the plant died? Then you come to assumption. So first is observation, second is problem, third is assumption. Okay, this plant has died because no water. Fourth is big word, hypothesis. I remember I did it in university, and then it really meant something to me when I started teaching. But it's only two words that are in that. If I water this plant, then it will grow. Because my assumption is plant has died, no water. Then only you do the experiment. You water the plants. And then if the plant revives, okay, your initial assumption has been correct. If it doesn't revive, then you have to come to another conclusion. Then only you can come to a conclusion. Yes, the plant died because no water. Otherwise, you come back. You can't come to a conclusion there. Edison built the electric bulb 2,000 odd times before he actually perfected it. But what happened, I'm talking again as me as a child, and I've seen teachers doing this, and I've been correcting them in my 50 years. For example, they will say, plants, this is how they do the practical book. first the experiment. Plants need sunlight to grow. Then equipment. They will have bell jar, black paper, whatever plant, right? Method. You cut a hole in the black paper, you put the plant, you put a bell jar, and you leave it on the windowsill. Observation. Plant grew towards the sunlight, towards the hole. Conclusion. Plants need sunlight to grow. Now you begin with that and you end with that. The child doesn't have to think at all. You should have begun with a plant that is going sideways like that. And the child needs to think, why did this plant grow straight? Why did it go sideways? Begins with observation. We do not train, very often, we do not train our children to think. And that is where all this has, that is why there's so much of discrepancy between the passing of an exam and being able to do a job of work finally, right? So now I would like to have the Blooms coming in, okay? The Bloom's taxonomy, yeah. Okay. I'm sure all of you as principals with all your several years of educational experience would know this, right? The first step in the Blooms is to remember, right? So you expect your children to remember what you're doing. But there again, I come back to lesson planning. The child will not remember what you're doing if you're going to come into the class, say, take out your books and start reading a note, right? You're going to have a mindless child who's just copying a note, right? Sometimes I am aware of it. I have seen teachers doing it in my 50 years, where they come totally unprepared. They do not have a proper engagement. They say, where did we stop last time? And then you begin again. Sometimes they read from the textbook as well, right? So you are not enhancing the remember aspect of it because you are not engaging the child, right? I'm sure even if you are going to forget everything I said today, which you might, you will not forget that clip that was played at the beginning for my engagement. And you will not forget later on the clip I'm going to play at the end as well, right? So it's very, very important that your teachers, and you help them as principals, work out a good engagement. As a principal, when I was a principal, I used to go through my teachers' lesson plans very often. Once a month, I used to go through, I divided the school into parts, and once a month, I used to go through the teachers' lesson plans. And one of the things I very, very firmly spoke about was the engagement. I used to look at the engagements and to say, make it more exciting, because that is very, very important. And finally, the evaluation is also very important, right? If your evaluation is just going to be giving a pass paper and getting a mark, right? Child might pass the exam, but the child will not have any education, or there won't be any creativity coming out from the child, right? So to remember also, you have a huge responsibility to make them give a good engagement, right? Then understand will come in with the second part of our lesson plan, the exploration. When you explore, a lot of understanding will come in, just as we did today with that clip. We explored it. The gentleman who gave the clip actually explored quite a bit so that we understood what he was talking about, right? So as teachers, it is mandatory that we see to it that they don't just remember only, right? That they understand also. Now, I will give you a good example of what happened to me in grade 3, right? We were given this poem, Bed in Summer by R.L. Stevenson, right? The poem goes like this. In winter, I get up at night and dressed by yellow candlelight. In summer, quite the other way, we have to go to bed by day. That's the first verse. Now, as a child of grade 3, I would have been 8 to 9 years, yes. 7 to 8 years. I am thinking, now I'm a child born in Sri Lanka. I have not been exposed to winter. That was a very bad choice for a teacher to make with children who had never been abroad, right? Actually, it's very, very important that teachers understand that children must understand what you are talking about, right? Now, we were given this poem, and I remember going to bed that night and thinking, okay, why do some children in winter why do they get up at night? And why do they go to sleep? Sometimes go to sleep during the day, right? And believe me, principals, I never understood it, and it was always a question mark in my mind till I went to England when I was 25 years old. And I came out of the airport at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and it was dark. And then bed in summer hit me. It was only then that I understood it. So I think you need to choose things that they understand. And I think it's our responsibility, it's our onus to see that the children understand, not just remember. I remember the poem. I'm still reciting it without anything. I know I can recite the whole poem because we were made to learn it, right? So I remember the poem. If I was asked to recite it as an assessment, I would have recited it, but I did not understand it, right? So it is your responsibility to see that they understand what you are teaching them, because unfortunately, a lot of children do not understand. And one of the saddest things that I see is math is taught rote. Math is taught rote, and the level of maths is really bad in the country, and so many fail O-level. Even children who pass the Shishatriya. So how is that? Now they're taught, and they are producing results. But some of them fail the math at O-level because they have learned the math in a rote manner, not logically. So I think it's really, really important that they apply. So we come to the next stage. We apply and we analyze, right? So we have given some things there, what you have to do. Use information in new situations. Apply. If all your mathematical concepts can be applied as far as possible, because there are two branches, applied maths and pure maths. Pure maths later on you do just for the purity of the maths, but most of the maths is applied. So when you are teaching math from the time they're little, I think our Sri Lankan system is really good with that. And the smaller classes, they use a lot of realia and teach the children to apply. But later on, we go into this rote math system, which is very, very sad. And they do not know even percentages. Sometimes I find teachers, they have learned percentages just to pass the exam, but they cannot calculate percentages when they have to calculate percentages in the report. And that is really, really sad. And then you need to analyze what you have. To apply, those two actually go together. If you don't analyze, you apply and analyze will go together. It's very, very important. And you draw connection. Right? From the time they're small, we do things like sorting, matching, connecting, sequencing. All that is to develop their logic, right? In the preschool also, we have a tendency now, all the preschools are teaching to write, teaching to form letters, teaching to form numbers. Then you need to develop their brains, right? That is why you have the sorting, the matching, the connecting, the sequencing, because that is where the emphasis must come in at preschool, right? Not writing all the time, right? Learning letters, writing. Preschool must engage. I don't think you all are involved in preschools, but even at grade 1, that is why they take it very slow. They say and things like that, because you need to actually acclimatize the child into a learning environment and not to an environment where you are being taught all the time. And when they learn, they will automatically apply and they will have to analyze. So it's very important that you analyze. When you sequence in the preschool, you are analyzing. You're analyzing which picture comes first, which picture comes second. And that you need to go in even to later on, compare, contrast, to analyze. You can use so many techniques for that. You can use Venn diagrams. Venn diagrams don't have to be only with math. You can have monocots, dicots in a Venn, and you can have in the middle, you can have has roots, has leaves, whatever, and the two sides, fibrous root, taproot, like that in the Venn. Simple methods of comparing and contrasting. Mind maps. Mind maps are so important, where you actually give them to read something which is connected to your syllabus and get them to work out the important parts of it and do a very good mind map, right? So there's so much that you can do for them to analyze. And then they need to evaluate whether what they have learned, they can evaluate. And you need to, all question papers should have all these parts. Any assessment, so what I'm suggesting is that if you feel the government papers are rote, right? Sometimes I think they are, especially in the smaller classes, but not always. I find even in the small grade 1, 2, 3, there's a lot of connecting and matching and things like that. But if you feel as principals that the government papers are very, very rote, and you have no choice, you have to give them, please make your class assessments. Now, that's something that I find is lacking in lots of schools. Like way back with the reforms in the early 2000, when those reforms came in, there was a lot of emphasis on continuous assessments, if you remember. And there was also, we were taught different methods, given different tools for assessing. Can I have a feedback on whether how many of them were in those reforms and how many of them had a training on using those alternative tools for assessing, like open book and so many different tools? Can I have a feedback on, and they were also asked to us to use alternative methods, which again, I come on to multiple intelligence, where the multiple intelligence was used for assessing. Can I have a feedback on that? How many?
Ms. Wickramasinghe, if you could please clarify feedback.
Feedback on using on how many of them were there with the 2000 reforms, where we were exposed to alternative methods of assessing and the continuous assessments. And yeah, then I'll ask the next question.
Right. Okay. So, dear principals, Ms. Wickramasinghe would like for you for your feedback on the 2000 education reforms, where you use alternative tools to evaluate. So I'll give you 10 seconds to respond through the chat box, or you can also unmute. You can use your mic to give your feedback as well. So the question is, how many of you have used alternative methods of evaluation as per the 2000 reforms, the educational reforms? I hope I got that right. Yeah.
Yeah, that period, yes, 2098.
I will call on the principals, on you individually, if we don't get any responses. Yeah. So principals, if you can please give your feedback on how many of you were involved in the 2000, the education reforms around the year 2000, where alternative tools for evaluation were given in the education policies.
They would have all been teachers like I was, or no, I was a vice principal.
Right. Yes, Mr. Nihal Ahmed, yeah. Your input, sir, please. Were you part of it? Sister Shamali has said that she uses few methods like open book tests and assessments. Can we please have more feedback from you, principals? Mr. Ahmed? Mr. Ahmed has gone for breakfast. Okay. Deshani? Yes. Miss Deshani? Yes. Miss Monica? Mr. Ratnayaka? Any feedback on this? You can unmute and answer as well. Okay. I'm getting, Ms. Wickramasinghe, I'm getting some responses.
So they have all been Many of them have been trained, I can see it.
Yes.
So it's very important that the SBAs are now, they are now taking a back seat because the exams are taking the primary place, right? Whereas the assessments, the school-based assessments should never take a back seat. And the school-based assessments is a method of really going up these blooms, right? Because you were given training in so many methods, using so many methods other than the traditional question answer method with straightforward questions, right? When was the Taj Mahal built sort of type of questions, right? Which just would concentrate on the remember. With the SBAs, you move up. You will move up to remember, apply, understand, and children are entitled to know, I feel, why they are learning something, right? We should just not be pouring in facts into children's minds. They should know why they have to learn that, right? Now, I saw a question in one of the schools that I was working in. When did Howard Carter discover Tutankhamun's tomb? Right? And that was to a small class. And I asked the teacher, I mean, what is the child going to learn from that? When did 1924 or something was the answer. I mean, you're not going to learn anything from that, right? The child should know why Howard Carter went to discover all these tombs. There's a reason why he went, because they're full of treasures, right? And then the next thing, why there were so many treasures in those tombs, right? Because the pharaohs believe in an afterlife inside those tombs, right? So without that knowledge, there's no point asking when did he discover the tomb. But unfortunately, our papers sometimes go directly with this type of questioning, right? Just that remember, and you're remembering a useless fact. It's not even a necessary thing, right? So we really, and then you're finding that this type of questioning is causing a lot of parents' anxiety, and that is where you find the children just wanting to be taught, not to learn. They just want to be taught something, to point out and forget about it, right? Whereas you need to use, we have different learning. Now the SBAs are based on different learning styles, right? There are the fourth one is of course reading and writing. There are three main learning styles, that is the auditory, the visual, and the kinesthetic. All of us have all these learning styles, but some of us are more visual, some of us are more auditory, some of us are more kinesthetic. Now, for example, I'm a kinesthetic learner. I love to make models. I love to walk around and discover things. I love to touch and feel things, right? So visual learners, most of them, I mean, if you take any sample, most would be visual learners. That's why the smart boards and all seem to be important tools. But I think you need to use all three learning styles in a class. Very, very important. Because if you take the multiple intelligence, no longer do you consider a clever person if they're only good in their maths and their language. Now that's where I find the Shishatra exam very faulty, because you are just testing their language skills and their logical mathematical skills. Whereas multiple intelligences, there are a whole lot of other intelligences which are also important, right? So if you take the intelligences, you have the logical mathematical, as I said, and the language, the linguistic skill, right? But apart from that, there is a musical skill, the bodily kinesthetic skill, the intrapersonal and interpersonal skills, which are very important, right? Then you have the visual spatial, the artists, even the people who become architects and all. The maths alone is not enough. You have the visual spatial and the naturalistic intelligence, which is also very important, where you are living, you're able to live and grasp nature better than others. For me, of all this, the most important is the intrapersonal and interpersonal skills, because you can be the cleverest person in this world, and you could have done your PhDs or whatever, but if you do not know to live with other people, you are going to get into a big mess. And sometimes you don't even know that you don't know to live with other people. So there's no interpersonal skill at all. So these are the multiple intelligences which you all can go and explore, which I think you all already know, Howard Gardner's. So it's very, very important that we use this in the classroom, and that our SBAs, our school-based assessments, work towards creativity using the multiple intelligences. Very, very important. And if you are going to develop the intrapersonal and interpersonal skills, you have to go into group work. And SBAs very clearly, when we were trained with the reforms, group work was mandatory. Group work and pair work was mandatory. Again, I like to find out how much of group work is being done in the schools as SBAs, as school-based assessments.
So principals, the next question Mrs. Vikramasinghe want us to answer is how much of school-based assessments, for example, group work, that is done in your schools. So if you could please unmute and answer, or please put it in the chat box. We'll give you 10 seconds. 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004, 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010. Okay, so Sister Gertrude has said very little. Mr. Ahmed has said we did. I'm not too sure, Ahmed, Mr. Ahmed, what you mean by that. We did, meaning you don't do it anymore. And Principal Pratibhan has said to some extent. Sister Shamli has said it depends. Some teachers do it, so which means some teachers don't, I suppose. So that's the feedback.
So I feel that as principals of the schools, it is mandatory that you have groups. It was mandatory for us when it came in, but the SBAs have really taken a downturn now, I know. And if you don't have school-based assessments with group work or pair work or something, actually you are depriving the children of a very, very important part of the multiple intelligence. And that is the interpersonal skills. Very, very important, because in those groups, you will find the big bosses who boss people. You'll find the child who is very capable of things, but who is very prone to getting bossed. So it's very important that the teachers know their children. I know some of you have big classes and all of that, but even in a small way, I think you do not, every class, every subject should have group-based assessments. It is mandatory. I really believe that if you don't have school-based assessments, you are really depriving your children of a good education, because that's when you're able to bring out their abilities. And remember that if the interpersonal skills are not developed, the children will not be able to do jobs in the future. And that is why I think you find such a lot of dissension today in society, because people are unable to live with each other. And that is really frightening and scary. Then when it comes to open book does not mean a comprehension. I think that must be very clear, because I have noticed sometimes in my teachers that they say, Miss, I did an open book assessment. And I say, okay, what did you give for the open book? And then they say, no, I told them to open the book to some chapter and I gave them some questions, right? That is not open book, right? Open book is where they have the book open, but they understand what you have taught them, and they're able to apply and analyze, right? So I will give you an example of two examples, right? One is where I did an open book with Oliver Twist in one of the schools I worked in. I finished the book, and the children were very engaged when I was doing the book. So when I finished the book, I came the next day and I told the children, girls, it was a girls' school. I said, girls, I'm giving you an assessment today. Those days, they didn't have the word assessment. They used the word test. I'm giving you a test today. And they all looked at me like, Miss, we haven't studied. I said, no, darling, you don't have to study. You can open your book, you can quote, you can do whatever you like. But this is the assessment. So there are three villains in Oliver Twist, right? There's Fagin, there's Bill Sykes, who killed his girlfriend, and there's Monks, right, who was his stepbrother. All three were evil men, right? So my question was, who was the worst villain of the three? Analyze and explain. Third question was, create a villain using their characteristics, right? And you should have seen the way the children plunged into that, right? The analysis was fabulous. I mean, some said it was Bill Sykes because he was a murderer. Then some said it was Monks because he strategized and made these two men also evil. Some said it was Fagin because he used children for his purpose, while others said no, Fagin wasn't so bad because he was kind to the children. There was such a lot of analysis, right? So actually they were made to think, and then they had to create a villain with all the bad characteristics so that they could. So I went up this whole Bloom's. Remember was removed because the book was open, right? But all the others was being exploited. Then there was another instance where I used the multiple intelligence, where again, the poem was Pied Piper of Hamelin. I came into the class after I finished the poem the next day, and I said, girls, I'm giving you a test today. Again, it was the same response, oh, we haven't studied and all that. I said, that's okay. You open the book, right? I want you to draw the Pied Piper. And they all looked at me like, Miss, draw? I said, yes, the assessment is, the test is, you have to draw the Pied Piper. So now the poem very clearly said, the Pied Piper wore a coat, half of yellow and half of red, with a smile that went in and out. And you won't believe the pictures I got. I can even now visualize one of the pictures, beautiful Pied Piper, this was again a grade 9 class, but it was, no, grade 7 it was. But it was like an adult picture, so beautiful, right? With a coat of yellow, half of red, and with a smile. And there were children who do red square, yellow square. There were children who do red ball, yellow ball, red flower, yellow flower. Of course, some had done the whole coat red, then, right, totally got it wrong, right? And yellow line and yellow and red line, and it was not half of yellow, half of red, where they hadn't interpreted that fully half of, but a lot of them had exactly half, right? One of them, whom this staff room gossip, who I had been told before I started the class that the child is a slow learner, etc., etc. And I never let those things influence me because I don't believe that there are slow learners. I only believe that there are children whom we need to bring out. We need to create, right? And somebody has asked a question. What did monitor?
I'm not too sure what the principle means. Says we did but not monitored by supervisors. Yeah.
That is group work, no?
Yes, that's right. Yes.
Group work has to be monitored. You have to. The teacher must be aware of what is happening. So then, and this girl whom the staff, the teachers had deemed as slow learner, she had drawn 2 Pied Pipers, right? Not very nice drawings because obviously her hand control wasn't so good, but half of yellow, half of red, and one was smiling, one was not smiling. So she had interpreted that poem perfectly, a smile that went in and out, right? So I gave her full marks. The girl who had drawn that beautiful Pied Piper was a little, I think, upset because her drawing was definitely the best. But this was an English assessment where I wanted them to interpret and understand and analyze that poem correctly, right? So I hung up all the pictures on the notice board and with the marks, and I told them to analyze why I gave those marks. right? Because you should have a rubric. I think you need to, teachers, I'm giving you homework, just go and refer rubrics. You need to have a rubric on how you mark something, right? And it should be given on to according to that. So if for the interpretation, if the half of yellow and half of red was presented, you will be 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, a rubric. So I did it according to a rubric. All assessments should be done according to a rubric. Please refer rubric because that's another session in itself to do rubrics. And your assessment should be marked according to a rubric. It's a little clearer than a mark scale. So you're able to explain things better to the children. So I put it all up and I told the children, now you work out why these marks were given. So the girl was a little upset that she didn't get the high, I mean, she got a high mark, but she didn't. She understood that she had not interpreted the smile that went in and out. She had only put a smile. But the girl whom people labeled as a slow learner had actually identified one smiling and one picture was smiling and one picture not smiling. So I gave her the full marks, right? So that was there was no writing in that. It was purely a drawing. They only had to interpret it by drawing, right? So these are the type of alternative assessments you can do, right? It's really important that you move on to interesting things for the children. Like, not like when did our character discover the tomb, right? It should be like, not who built the Ruan Velisayo, it should be why did Prince Gamunu or King Gamunu, or Dutu Gamunu as we call him, build the Ruan Velisayo. The children need to understand the religious fervor that was behind that. He didn't do it because he had nothing better to do, no. He did it for a reason, right? And even today, people go there and worship. Okay, so children must be aware of that. Now, one assessment I suggested to the teacher when now I'm a consultant, I said, why don't you get two famous people to write letters, write letters to each other, or one letter even, say Parakrama Bahu to Dutu Gamunu, or Hitler to Bismarck, or Churchill to Hitler, or something like that, or even a present day somebody. You can even have put into Zelensky, right? So actually it was very interesting. So I suggested, like, my dear Parakrama Bahu, how are you getting on? I'm very sad these days because my son Charlie has run away with a girl. But I'm sure you must be feeling very fulfilled building your Parakrama Samudra. I read somewhere that you had said that no drop of water should escape and every drop of water should be preserved. How's your wife Leelavati? Like that, so that you bring in a lot of facts. I am very busy building I have just finished my Virisavati. I am considering building another stupa called the Ruan Velisaya because I'm a devoted Buddhist, like that, so that the children are able to, make it more interesting for themselves, where the facts are coming out without, like, who built the Parakrama Samudra. Okay? So where they move out of the stereotype. So you can do that with your assessments. I think it's really very important that you move your assessments from this boring question and answer, right? A comprehension. Why don't they write the questions instead of the answers, right? You get them to open their textbook. I mean, that's a very fine way of covering, a famous in teacher. And actually, our textbooks have a lot of lovely assessments. Do the principals agree with me? If you take civics, if you take geography, if you take history, I see a lot of lovely assessments in those which the teachers don't do. And their famous thing when I ask them sometimes is, Miss Velane, no time, can't cover the syllabus. Come on, there are so many methods in which you can cover the syllabus. Give the children a chapter, get them to read it and take out the very important words in those, or the very important facts in those, or get them even to precede that, or do a mind map with that. There's so much they can do. You can cover a section with that, right? Instead of just reading a note. Okay? So then I can't cover the syllabuses. I don't have time to read the note out, right? And then what do the children do? They take that note and go to the tuition master or the tuition teacher. Or they go to the tuition teacher also gives a note, right? So I think at least as far as the assessments go, you need to change the way you are going to approach that. It's very, very important. So one of the big messages I have today is to develop your school-based assessments in your school. Work according to the multiple intelligence theory, where I know one of the assessments they were to make speeches, debates, so important, right? Where the children are learning to analyze, right? Even the oratory, where they get the confidence, they make speeches. Those were all part of the school-based assessments. You were given so many. Unfortunately, those have gone under the radar. I mean, I don't know. Nobody emphasizes them very much. And so your school-based assessments must go on. At that time when we were teaching, I was a vice principal, but I taught 25 periods in spite of being a vice principal. And I remember exploring all these avenues of school-based assessment. We had no option. The zonal and the circuit ones used to come and look at our assessments. Now they've forgotten about it, right? So if we had 5 periods, we had to do 5 assessments for the term. If we had 5 periods a week, we had to do 5 assessments for the term. Then later on, they reduced it to 3 or something if we had 5 periods. But we had to do those assessments. And there were teachers who used to give 10 spellings and silly things like that for assessments. And they used to get pulled up very badly if they had done things like that, because we were given very good assessment techniques, which now I've explained some of them, which I think we must bring back. I think it's essential that we bring back. I know that even when they were leaving the system, I as principal maintained it, and I was very, very particular. Project work, research work, give them to research on a topic and come and write on that. I mean, 2 pages is okay. Give the topic, get them to read and come. Now, today is a world of the web. The children are all on they are all researching. Or if they don't have phones, send them to the library. I'm sure you'll have computers. Anyway, there are books. Now, the school that I worked in, we used to have library research projects where we used to give very interesting projects where the children actually researched on that the whole year and gave us research projects, right? So those were all very, very important things that we really that you really need to work with, and you need to enhance in your schools, because if you don't do that, the children are not going to get an education. They're just going to be taught. They are not going to learn. They're just going to reproduce. And you are not going to have an educated child where you bring out and you nurture, right? It's so important that you use this Bloom's taxonomy for them to create. Very, very important. You should have extracurriculars or like co-curricular activities where you have, because there's so much that's going on in the country. There is so much of creative stuff that's going on. There are, I think, competitions where you innovation competitions, things like that, where the children are encouraged to create. But you will find that there'll be a few who will get involved in that. Most of them won't. So I think it is very essential that principals do this at class level. Now, that was one of the tenets I used as a principal. Everything was done at class level, and I used to judge on the horizontal level, the grade. I used to judge the grade at the horizontal level, right? It's essential that we do that. And that is like, if it's A, B, C, D, the classes, if it was an innovative thing, which class was the most innovative of the lot, right? I even had a thing where they all formed companies. Every grade for every class formed a company, and the children put 100 rupees each. And at the end, I looked at what the company was and how much of profits they had made. They had to have a CEO and various people in the classroom, and they each became a company so that they lived that. They actually lived the business studies experience, right? And it was from grade 4 to grade 9. So all the children in their little minds, the grade 4 children understood what a company was, because you have to work on experiential learning, right? Not learning from the textbook or the board. And that is the responsibility of us principals, to see that the children go into experiential learning. So just as you're having those examination papers at the end of the year or whatever, and you are answerable to the zonal and whatever, please see that the teaching goes on to the experiential level and that it is not going to leave them. Just as much as today's engagement, I don't think will leave you all, because that was a very striking engagement, right? And you understood exactly how creativity of a child can get destroyed. I don't think there's any principal here who didn't understand that, because I can talk till the cows come home, but me talking would not have. I could have told you, but you would have still been thinking, okay, this is a fact. I mean, some of you may have thought this nonsense. I can't go with this. But that engagement really opened your eyes into understanding that a teacher can destroy creativity. And our mission is not that. Our mission is to bring out and nurture and to enhance the creative ability of a child. And if we don't do that, we destroy our children. If we train them just to read off a book, read the book, remember what is in that, never mind even if you don't understand, reproduce it, we have lost the plot. I'm very happy to know that in the local A-level system now, there are a lot of creative questions. It has really improved, and creativity is being, I mean, I noticed the physics teacher had sent me the physics question, and I noticed that they are really moving up the Bloom's, right? Unfortunately, I don't see it in some of the other foreign exams that I also work with, because they are still in the system where you do 10 years past papers, you can pass, and that's not a good thing. And our O-levels also can improve, although our textbooks have a lot of creative assessments there, but I think it's mandatory that the teachers understand that they must do them. Now, I noticed, take them field trips. Now, I noticed in civics, they talk about the post office, and they say take the children to the post office, right? How many of us, and when they go to field trips, it should also be where they understand and analyze that field trip. Why did they go on that field trip? What did they learn at that field trip? Was it did everything they see excite them? That again, we need to channel them into that understanding. Otherwise, you're not educating them. You are just making them rote learners, and that's not what education is all about. It's really important. So please, principals, go back to the SBAs. There's enough material on that period where you can see the methodology that's used for the SBAs. And of course, with these Bloom's, you can Google Bloom's. Bloom's is there in a big way. They tell you exactly, I mean, in the internet, all the things that you can do to finally make them create. I think there are a few here also. Yes, produce new or original work, design, assemble, construct, conjecture, develop, formulate, author. Yes, they can write books, they can write, there's so much they can do. They can think of nice projects that they can foster, they can start things, right? All that is creativity. Now, I know Yukti's daughter did some wonderful creative work with children, right? So that is because they're taking education to another level. Because if they don't, we as educators have failed them. If you have not stimulated them to take the education to another level, we have, as educators have failed them. All the children will not be brilliant examiners, right? But they will have a very strong logical brain. So you need to develop all that, because at the end of the day, that's what they're going to live with, right? Just as much as the exam is important, there are so many people who pass exams and get 4 A's, 3 A's, but they are not logical sometimes, right? And also, amidst all that, I think one of the very important things that as principals you have to foster is the value education, where again interpersonal, where intrapersonal, where their emotions, their feeling for other people is nurtured. Because we are now living in a world, a very selfish world, where all the children and the parents are interested in getting 9 A's, getting 3 A's. They don't care about others at all. They hide their books, they don't share their notes. You hear so much of bullying. And I think as schools, school principals must take a strong stand on those things, because children learning to hurt children, that has always been there, but now it's in the open. So there's so much more you can talk about. Give them assessments. Now the civics syllabus, I mean, there was this lovely subject called life competencies. Actually, I taught that when I was at Bishop's College. I mean, I not taught, I facilitated it when I was at Bishop's College, where it was a non-competitive subject. There were no exams, no marks, but it was all on identifying yourself, identifying your problems, identifying somebody else's problems, stress, feelings for others, feelings that you have, all of that, right? But what happened? Maths teacher wanted an extra class. Because I was the vice principal, I used to refuse to give the class, right? But why? No exam, no test. So therefore, and that was the most important subject, where the children learn to live in this world, to care for other human beings. And you really need to nurture that. That is really important, right? Because in the multiple intelligence theory, if you do not have interpersonal skills where you really learn to care for others, you will become very selfish. Now look at that scholarship exam. How much of selfishness is there? The tuition teacher has taken the paper, right? Absolute selfishness. No, doesn't he realize these 10-year-olds are going to be suffering as a result? Then those parents, I just cannot understand, right? Do they want, it's bad enough subjecting them to that at 10 years, right? Sending them, I am told that scholarship exams classes sometimes start at 4 in the morning and go on till late at night, right? What are they planning for their children, right? The government gave a solution, go with that? No, they have to go to courts, right? Don't they realize that their children are being subject to so much trauma, right? And this is what is happening. Like, children themselves don't care when they subject other children to trauma. So as principals, I think it's really important that you have some structure in the school, in the class, right? One of the things I did is I put up thank you trees in all the classes. And I said every day I should see some thank yous coming in. Do something nice for somebody else. If you hear somebody say things that are not nice about somebody else, correct them. Say, we're all human beings. We love to gossip. We love to hear things. But I said, as long as you don't hurt another human being. If you are doing things to hurt another human being, but first thing I used to ask the children is, do you all like to be hurt? Do you like to be bullied? Right? That used to be the first one, because that introspection is very important. The intrapersonal skills in the multiple, please read up Howard Gardner, I'm sure you all know it, but read it again, to understand the intrapersonal skills, right? And then to direct it to them, because bullies also need help, right? Bullies are very, very, very sad people. That is why they need to hurt somebody to gain some happiness. So they also need help. And you can't be channeling everything to counselor. I think every teacher should understand to direct that. Every principal should understand to direct that type of hurt and get the children to understand their own hurts, right? Because now again, it's always send to a counselor, get a counselor, where's a counselor? I mean, look at the suicides. Why are there suicides like this? It's this pushing that's going on. I mean, how much of parental awareness are we giving these parents? I feel very sad when I see the grade 5 scholarship children all lined up, the ones that got the highest marks. What do you want to be? I want to be a doctor. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a doctor. I mean, come on, aren't there other professions in this country, right? I'm very sad that nobody wants to become a teacher, because I can tell you my 50 years in education has given me so much happiness and satisfaction, right? So I think we need a lot of awareness going on there. So I think that is also a big responsibility of the principals, where along with all these academic things I've been talking to you about, you have to find ways and means of nurturing their value education. That is up to you, because we don't want children to go out in this world being bullies and hurting people and creating an environment that's so unhappy. Right? So I hope I covered what I wanted. I think I have. What project planning. And of course, on the field, the extracurricular activities, I think you'll all nurture that, but that again has got far too competitive. Again, principals, I mean, I was a principal, I have to admit, I was also guilty of that. I wanted my sports women, and when I was vice principal also, to like win the nationals, win this, win that. But if it was done at the level of stress, creating a huge stress to them, I think we need to be very, very careful. They need to play games. They need to take part in games, to enjoy, to understand games, to be able to go to a match and understand what the match is all about. Go see a cricket match and understand the cricket match. To see a raga match to understand the raga match. To see a football match to understand and to enjoy the whole thing, right? But if we are teaching them to take part in extracurriculars just to win all the time, right, then we have failed them. So again, extracurriculars are a must. Now, even clubs and societies, why are we having a club? Why do we go to a club? Because we want to unwind. It's a recreational thing. But clubs and societies are made into some competitive thing now, I notice, right? So we have to be very careful that we don't lead everything into competition, right? There should be the love of learning coming in, the love of appreciation coming in, where they are able to appreciate music. Now, I can't sing, but I appreciate good singing. I appreciate good music, right? I don't play a single instrument, but today I'm going to the symphony orchestra because I can appreciate good music, right? So I think it's important that you nurture the children like that, to be able to listen to Amaradeva's song, or to listen to Jim Reeves, or to listen to Elvis Presley, or I don't know, these Justin Biebers and all these people, and to be able to analyze those. That is part of the Bloom's taxonomy, to be analyze the different types of music, the jazz, the classical, the country and western, to be able to analyze those, right? And to find the connection between some of those, the differences, and then you choose what you enjoy. I don't enjoy this new rap and this and that. I don't enjoy. I can't enjoy it, right? But I'm another era. But I have to understand that my children don't enjoy the music. My grandchild will definitely not enjoy the music I enjoy, unless, of course, I expose her to that, right? So it's up to you as principals to expose them to a range of stuff. Let them choose what they like. You don't have to indoctrinate that also, right? But we have to be careful, because what do Another thing, syllabus lokoi, syllabus is big, can't cover syllabuses, and we foist the children with a whole lot of homework. I don't know, principals, whether it's happening in your schools, but I do know that it's happening in many schools. And there have been so many complaints that there's so much homework that the children can't even play. They can't go out of the house and have from school to tuition to homework, right? And some of the teachers are covering their syllabuses with homework. So you need to, as principals, you need to be vigilant of things like that, because those are things can destroy the child. And they are also very insensitive, and they are measures that people take to avoid their own responsibility. And they do not think of their children. Of the children, but when it comes to their children, I have teachers coming and complaining to me that in the daughter's class there's far too much of homework given. So then I have asked, what about you? Don't you give a lot of homework? Because I know some of them are people who give a lot of homework. Now, as I put it, the rote maths, right? Little fellows, they add in school, and they're given another whole 2 pages to add with the mother. Right? So I think the things like that we need to really be vigilant about. I will put my last clip now and then can wind up, no? Yeah. Yukti? Okay.
No? කවුද මේ? Hello teacher, මම ඩල්ෆා. ඩල්ෆා? ඔයාලට පිස්සුද ළමයි මේ මහරජාණන් කෝල් කරන්නේ? දැන් බලනවා වෙලාව කීයද කියලා. දැන් 12යි වෙලාව. ඔයාලම තාමත් නිදි නැතුව මොනවද කරන්නේ? අපිට පළි යනකම් ගෙදර වැඩ දීලා ටීචර් නිදිද කියලා බලන්න ගත්තේ. අයියෝ සමිනි එනක වෙනවා.
The clip is basically for our Tamil speakers. This teacher is sleeping. It's 12 midnight, and she gets a call from Dalfa, one of her students. And the teacher asks, "Are you crazy to call me at 12 midnight?" And Dalfa says, "Teacher, you have given us loads of homework, and I just wanted to find out whether you're sleeping." So that's basically what this clip is all about. Over to you, Ms. Vikram.
Okay, so I think that's self-explanatory. Sometimes teachers tend to cover syllabuses by giving homework, and that's just not good enough. And there's no need to give this much homework, right? It should, you giving a little bit of homework is okay. We all got a little bit of homework, but it's very sad to see the amount of homework that's been foisted on children. And I hope principals, you all do have a little bit of knowledge of that, what is happening in your schools. I know all the teachers don't do it, but there are some who do it as a habit, right? They just inundate the students with homework, and that's another reason why you are finding tutors, children go for tuition, and all of that, because they can't cope. They are supposed to understand things through their homework, and they just cannot cope. And there should be some monitoring of this amount of homework. I hope that is being done. So I hope the session has been valuable and interesting. Yukti, shall I call it a day now?
Ms. Vikramasinghe, thank you very much. It's just that I think we are going to Q&A. Ilam, yes.
Yeah. I would like a question.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. If you're okay, Ms. Vikramasinghe, with maybe about 5 minutes Q&A.
Yeah,
yes.
Fine.
Yes. Ilam?
Thank you, Mrs. Vikramasinghe. Now we have arrived at the most important session of today's webinar, the discussion and Q&A session. Please feel free to raise any questions related to today's webinar topic. what I do to make learning relevant to the student and the world. We would like this session to be solution focused and positive. You can use the chat box or turn on the mic to ask your question in Sinhala, Tamil, or English. That brings us, yeah. So we can go to the Q&A session now.
Yeah. Also, principals, if you ask in Sinhala or Tamil, we will translate that into English, and the our response will only be in English.
Sinhala is okay. You don't need to translate. Tamil, you have to translate. Okay.
Yes, Ms. Vikramsinghe, that is for Tamil speakers, and Sinhala speakers, we translate that to what they ask. If they ask a question in Sinhala or Tamil in the vernacular, we translate the question into English, and our response will also be in English. Principals will give you 10 seconds because we are running out of time, and also we will be Ilam will be taking a group picture because otherwise Ms. Vikramsinghe might go away. So immediately after the Q&A session, we'll be taking a group picture at that time, and then we'll go with the rest of the program in the interest of time. I'm going to start off, and if we don't have any questions, principals, we might call on you to ask a question. Ms. Vikramsinghe?
Yeah.
Wonderful presentation. That's the elephant in the room. You mentioned it several times. The elephant in the room is we as government school principals, and you've taught in government schools. Your first appointment was at a government school in Trinco, as I understand.
I did taught in several government schools. My first one, then I taught in several after that also. Yeah.
Right. Excellent. Yeah, I just wanted to mention to inform our principals that you have taught many years in government schools and not just in private schools. Ms. Vikramsinghe?
My main training is in government schools.
Right. Yeah. Excellent. Ms. Vikramsinghe, I believe maybe the principals are maybe shy to ask this question, but the elephant in the room is we have so many syllabuses to cover because of COVID and all that. Everything has got disrupted. So how do we do all this? And now basically you're asking us to do school-based assessments, and our teachers are freaking out. So how do we do this?
School-based assessments is a part of the teaching process. You can do an assessment to cover a syllabus also. Like I said, you can use a textbook, you can ask them to read it, you can get them to do it to paraphrase it or to summarize it. I mean, you don't have to. Teacher doesn't have to teach everything also, especially in the higher classes. There has to be that learning process. They have to be geared into learning. And I think now I think COVID is very hackneyed. It's being misused also. And there's enough time that has been given now for that to cover the syllabuses. And I think it's really important that you get the children engaged. School-based assessment should be a part of the teaching learning process. If you don't have that, you're really missing out. It's very, very important that has to be there. Assessing is a part of the learning process and part of the covering the syllabus process. Now, this is what I really don't understand when they say, evaluation is a part of a learning, is a part of the lesson plan. So if you don't have a method of evaluating, you've lost the plot. It's very, very important that but only thing is with assessing, you have to think a little more. When you assess school-based assessments, you can't just say who discovered or who built the Rwandan side. Oh, it has to be a little more. You have to put in a little more thought. But at the end of the day, you're getting the syllabus covered better.
Right.
And this business of can't cover the syllabuses has been always there. But now I taught in government schools. When I started in Sinhala Mahavidyalaya, I taught all 3 A-level subjects: chemistry, botany, zoology. Right? They were vast subjects. But I somehow covered the syllabus. There were times when I used to come, St. John's, Nugegoda. Every Saturday I used to come and teach the boys. Right? I used to come and cover the zoo syllabus. So, there are methods that you can cover the syllabus, but you can't if you're running off for tuition class. And the children also have got so used to it. They are also, tuition, this, that, and the other. But it's the onus of the school to get the children confident in what the school is teaching, but our school teachers are teaching. But if they are taking leave all the time and not covering syllabuses, then the children will automatically go to the tutor. That's a sad thing. So we really need to be very vigilant about that. And I'm sure all the principals must be having this problem where the teachers take leave and don't come to school, and then they say they can't cover syllabuses. Naturally, they can't cover syllabuses. None of the syllabuses in the smaller classes are syllabuses you can't cover. That I can tell you. Even the O-level syllabus, the science is a bit of a because you have all 4 things in it, and sometimes I think business and accounts, but otherwise they are not syllabuses you can't cover. That is nonsense. I don't agree with that at all.
Thank you, Mr. Wickramasinghe. One more question. By the way, Mr. Nagandhiraja, you have said how is our exam system from Ms. Wickramasinghe. I think that might take about a day or 2 for Ms. Wickramasinghe to answer. But if you have a specific question, you can even unmute and ask. Ms. Wickramasinghe, I'm going to ask one more question, which is because this webinar is all about relevance as well. So the thing is, so all the comments, if you can just sort of share with the principals the relevance of what you said to the current context, to the modern world, I'll be grateful if you can put that into context. Basically, why should we be doing all that you've been asking us to do in the current context?
Number one, I think not only current, it should have been even in our time. Children should be entitled. I mean, I think all of us are entitled to know why we are doing something, aren't we? Are we mindless people who are not doing things just because we have to do it? So if the children are learning something, they are entitled to know why they are learning that. Why they are learning to add, why they are learning to subtract, why they are learning about Dutu Kambunu, why they are learning our history, why we are learning about the world wars. I mean, history itself is a lesson. Geography is a lesson, right? Why are there tsunamis? How do you prevent that? How do you look after yourself from getting how do you escape from those? I mean, all that is a part of learning in life. So what is 100% relevant is experience and learning, as I call it, because we need to know why we are learning something, and we also need to know that we need to experience our learning. Very important. I mean, we are living history today, but history is also repeating itself all the time, right? Has the UN become a viable organization, or is the UN defunct now? Right? They learn about the UN in their O-level syllabuses, right? They learn about the world wars, right? So they need to, actually teachers also have to read and learn a little more so that they take the children into the next level. That's very important. And experiential learning is the total relevance, right? How can you will not be educated? Are you learning just to pass an exam? And are you going to just forget about it anymore? That's a waste of time. No, then you might as well not learn. Okay.
Right. Thank you.
Right.
So so Mr. Nagandhiraja has asked this question: how is our exam system, ma'am? So if you can answer to that. Yes.
Exam, I can see there has been a lot of change, and it is keeping on changing, right? I do not find anything really wrong with our examination system. I can see that the papers are changing also. I think we need to make the papers far more interactive, right, than what they are now. But if they are changing, I think we can reduce. I think there is a big move to reduce some of the subjects also right now with the reforms. Whether it's going to happen, I don't know, but it was going to happen from this January. Where the examination papers themselves, they need to be very, very careful about so many things. One is that they don't leak. Two is that they don't make mistakes in those papers. Unfortunately, they do make mistakes in those papers, right? And they waste a lot of children's time, and then they apologize and they say they're taking that question out. So things like that have to be seen too, but the examinations themselves have evolved quite a bit. They have evolved quite a bit, just as much as teacher techniques, teacher training, all that, the 5 Bs was not there 50 years ago. But I have to say 50 years ago, the scientific method was there. So the scientific method has taken a decline because I know practicals are not being done in classes. Practicals are done on the board, right? There are some schools, of course, that have a practical exam also and I think all schools should have that, right? They can reduce some of the syllabuses and do that. But I don't find a huge fault with the exams really. Except that the content, it's not the exam that's at fault. The A-level content is too much. The Sri Lankan A-level content is far too much. Right. What they do when they reform is they add some more content.
Okay, right.
So that is an area they need to look at.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wickramasinghe. At this time, the Q&A session comes to an end. And Ilam, if you can quickly go into the group photograph. Yes, that will be great. Yeah, thank you. Ilam, if you can quickly announce the group photograph before